Okay, this is a 13-step proof that government should not exist. Step 1, the only important goal of life is the happiness of the individual. Now in red I have the essential philosophical, the essential principle in summary, in short. The only important goal of life is the happiness of the individual, love. Right? Only the individual can competently decide for herself. Only the individual knows how her decisions affected herself. Intellectuals and bureaucrats don't know. Bastards, they're assholes. We are against slavery precisely because no one can be happy when being told what to do. So only the autonomous individual is competent. Step 3. When deciding for ourselves, we can live as we like and keep what we require through trade or work. That's just logic. As free people, we would enforce or hire enforcement of those private property rights. Exactly, right? You can do that any number of ways. You can do that any number of ways. You can build fortresses, or you can arm yourself, or you can hire private enforcement, security people, or you can live in communities of mutual protection. All kinds of things you can do. Freedom, therefore, presupposes law, right? If people are free, they're going to maintain their freedom, right? And they're going to do it whatever means necessary. So freedom equals private property, which equals law. There's just no separation there. So number 4 is the social advantage of freedom is feedback from receivers to suppliers. Now everybody is both, right? Everybody gives and takes, right? By giving or withholding value to the suppliers, all the receivers tell the suppliers what the receivers want, right? If the new iPhone isn't up to snuff on the compared to the new Android, you know. And by the way, that's not a free market. There's a lot of patent laws and stuff destroys the free market in that respect. So by giving or withholding value, it tells the suppliers to constantly adjust what they supply, including their new offerings, to the changing preferences of the receivers. Right? Because things change all the time, all the time. This process maximizes the happiness of everyone because it's their own decision. It's the only competent decision there is. So all value in life is created in this way, voluntarily and therefore competently. All value, there's no value created through force, except in a gross way, but in a net way, it's always a loss. Okay. So private property forms society. Now, pollution and environmental degradation is a violation of the law, a restriction on freedom, private property, right? Now, since government has been in charge of the law, government has failed to protect us from pollution. In fact, government has been the greatest polluter by far. So the general point is all human issues are private property issues. Now, a society without government would have the least pollution and environmental degradation because free and lawful individuals, that's what they would be, and businesses would anticipate legal liability and insurance liability, just as businesses and insurance companies do now when not shielded or diverted by government. Like BP, for instance, paid a fine for polluting the, what they call it, the Gulf of Mexico, but that's just crony capitalism, right? That's not real free market insurance coverage, right? If the waters were all, the fishermen and all the landowners around the Gulf were in a free market, that would have stopped the pollution. That would have prevented the pollution. So it was crony capitalism and regulation that caused the problem and dealt with the problem. So government is a monopoly. Okay, where were we? So they could do so. Okay, so there's no immunities, right? In a free market. So like law, like other businesses, requires competition. Only through competition can all functions of society be carried out. So regulation is bullshit, government regulation. So government is a monopoly. Monopolies get no feedback from receivers except through political approval, a feedback mechanism suitable for maintaining political power. Government is more than a monopoly. It is a compulsive monopoly. Everyone but special interests has to contribute to and participate in its operations. Government hasn't the feedback mechanism of freedom because it takes by force and doesn't get any individual feedback. It has no balance sheet of what people like except in its political feedback. So government has a monopolistic nature, and monopoly has no feedback. Now, all monopolies are violent organizations. Otherwise, because obviously, if it's not a violent organization, somebody's going to break the monopoly, right? So John D. Rockefeller did not have a monopoly because anyone could compete with him. In fact, the price and quality of kerosene improved throughout the heyday of his company. At this time of laissez-faire, Americans' real wages increased perhaps more than in any country in history, whereas monopoly equals violence equals impoverishment. So government simply takes and redistributes according to political pressures. Its redistributions pay off political contributors and large constituencies. Those two groups utilize the giant protection racket that violent monopoly government is. It is therefore lawless. So to summarize, love leads to respect for the individual, which leads to private property rights, which equals the lawful feedback of voluntarism, which equals society and competition. Whereas monopoly government equals violence, special privileges, lawlessness, and leads to the decay of society. Thus, government does nothing for the individual. I don't have them. I can't get the thing to scroll down. Thus, government does nothing for the individual. Therefore, government ought to be abolished. So that's all.